I just stubbed my toe and it hurts. And I wanted to talk about people changing. You can't look after yourself without getting tough on yourself and on other people, and change. And it's like stubbing my toe when I was a child. If I stubbed my toe, I used to cry, and Dad used to hurt himself, and I used to admire the fact that he wouldn't burst out crying. So as you mature and as you get older, you learn to deal with things. Dad was good at dealing with pain. Um, we all have the ability to adjust, adapt, and change, and grow, and become mature. But we can't do it if we're not willing to step out of our comfort zone and have the courage and the strength to try to become mature and to take the risks that are needed to give us confidence in ourselves. When you take the risks, you feel more confident about more risks in the future, and you think, well, this worked out good. I'm going to check this one out and think, well, this could be good too. And you do your homework, of course, and then you have a go. If you don't have a go, then you stay as you are. So personal growth is from try and do, learn from your errors, learn from your mistakes, try again, but it's all about trying. If we don't try, then we don't change, we don't adapt, we don't grow, we don't get better at anything we do. We stay where we were. It's like learning to walk. If you didn't keep trying, you'd be sitting on your backside on the ground, your legs would be useless. So you had to learn how to walk. I was thinking of the incident that popped into my head was one about when I was a teenager. And one of my sisters got me to go out to the kitchen, and I found out that every one of my family, my mother and all my sisters, had a key to the shed I was living in, and Mum had given it to them. Went downtown, got copies, and gave it to them. And when I was at work, working on shift work, they would use my shed, steal stuff out of it, take money out of it when they wanted to buy smokes or they were short of cash, and they would sleep in it and party in it and stuff like that. And they just cleaned it up, and when it happened, when the sister took me into the kitchen and sat me down with my mother and my sisters and said, "Look, tell them." And Mum said, "Oh, we all got keys to your shed." And the shed I lived in was a carport shed. When I woke up in the frost, there was frost all across the ceiling. There was no protection between the iron and the room, so it was freezing. And I took that room so that my sisters and mother could have room in the house. And Mum was always hitting me up for more and more weekly rent. She wanted me to keep it going high, and I was the highest paying rent payer. But she kept wanting more and more and more. That was one of the things that was driving me kind of crazy, because it was the first time in my life I had money and I wanted to buy me a bike and get my new spectacles and things like that. So, but anyway, after I was told about them all being in there, it hurt my feelings, it broke my heart. Here's my family stealing off me, but I don't recall changing the key. No, I'd like to believe I did. I really hope I did, but I don't know if I did. All these years later, after all the experiences I've gone through, especially everything I learned up to 2004, my personal growth started in 2004 or 2003 when I found God, and I started seeing the world in a different way, and I started seeing people, good and bad, in a more pronounced way or a stronger way. It was more clear cut. Black was black and white was white. There was no grey areas, right and wrong, good and evil. And so therefore I started changing and doing things I didn't want to do, but I knew if I didn't do them, I wouldn't grow and become a stronger person. And so if that same incident when I was a teenager came up now, in fact, many, many incidents when I was a teenager and a young adult came up now, my reaction now would be completely different. I would have gone straight out and got a new case. In fact, I would have left the house, and I didn't. Mum ended up kicking me out because I kept complaining about people. Mum kept having parties, and they kept having, I suppose it was cocaine or heroin or something on the. And I said, Mum, they're doing hard drugs. And she was like, will you just shut up and let us have our fun? And then one day, I came home from work and Mum was standing in the driver's seat. She kicked out. And 3 days later, time you can come get your stuff. And I never even questioned myself about the 3 days. Well, during the 3 days, they raided all my stuff. She stole huge amounts of photos out of my. I had big photo albums of all the family for many years, and she stole hordes of it. And after Mum died, and we went up north to her house, when they opened her photo albums, they were going, "Look at these beautiful photos Mum's got." And I was staring at them like, I haven't seen these since I took them. So we got them developed back in those days. So yeah, I would have reacted so much different now. And it's not maturity and it's not growth. I was deliberately growing to be unconfident. And when you're unconfident, um, you don't, you don't have the ability to make right choices and the best choices for yourself. So the important thing here is about making the best choices for you. So sometimes I clung to so many people and I wouldn't let go, and I should have let go. I can look back at the relationships I had with women and friends and mates and stuff that I should have disconnected a lot earlier. And if I had of, a lot of hassle wouldn't have happened. A lot of bad things wouldn't have happened. But because I was insecure and needy and desperate, I clung to everybody. Anyone who came into my life, I was clinging to them as a friend because, and that adjusted my value of what was important. Because when you cling to the wrong people and they do drugs or they do something wrong, then you continue to cling to them because you're desperate. And you think, oh, well, I'll just ignore the fact that they're like that. I'll pretend that doesn't happen and I'll just cling to them, be their friend. And they can hurt you later on when people tell lies about you and they can add stuff to it and say, oh, he was friends with these druggies, or he was living with these druggies, he was doing this and this and that with these people. And a good example of this was the mother-in-law who really hated me. She one day said to me in front of the wife and some other people, she said, oh, you're a drug dealer. And I said, what? And I said, no. And she said, yes, you're a drug dealer. I know all about it. You lived in that flat at the bottom of Raitai Flats. You were on the end one and they were dealing drugs there. I didn't even know anyone was dealing drugs there for a start. But Rick and Deidre, who lived there, it appears Rick did sell some drugs to some people. But not me, because I've been heavily, anyone who actually knows me knows that I'm heavily against drugs all my life. I've heavily been against drug abuse and the pharmaceutical drugs. And the only drugs I take are painkillers and only the stuff you can buy in the supermarket. So people can take your situation and manipulate it and change it and stuff like that. But see, even that thing there in that situation, if I was in the house with them and I'd known they were doing selling drugs, then and I knew they were smoking it, but not around me. So therefore, I should have known to leave and go somewhere else. Why didn't I? Would I do it now? Definitely. I wouldn't hesitate now to do it. So as you mature and become more confident in your life, you make better choices for you. People are always sitting there saying, oh, you're so selfish. You're only doing that for yourself. You don't care about the rest of us. We need you to do this to help us and all this sort of stuff. And you make sacrifices for people that aren't worth it. And they're lying to you and tricking you and telling you stuff that's not real. And when you look after yourself and you have confidence, you start seeing what's not real. Or you have doubts and you think, nah, trust. See, when you're unconfident, you don't trust your doubts. When you're unconfident, you don't trust your gut instinct, your feelings. You don't trust any of those things. And Also, if God shows you something, you don't trust it either. You only trust what you see before you and what you're told by the people you think are trustworthy, and they're not. But because you have such doubt about yourself and your ability to function, therefore you must be the one who's in the wrong. And I've known of cases where they've had their golden child in families where that particular child, the mother basically does everything for that child, and they can do Mutch's syndrome proxy, where the mother keeps that one right through adulthood sick on all sorts of medication, and it's all fine, but it becomes so drummed into the child's head that by the time they're a young adult, they fully believe they have all sorts of mental issues and physical issues and stuff, so they've got to take these drugs. And all the drugs are doing is mucking them up mentally. And so as an adult, that person can have a lot of trouble making their own choices because their mother has spent all those years making the choices for them. And then as an adult, they like I was when mum wouldn't let me do anything, join clubs and stuff. As an adult, you don't have the mental capacity or the logical common sense ability to actually trust and have faith in yourself and your decisions and the things that you do. And when you do make a mistake, it hits you like a rock. It hits you like a bomb going off. And you'll notice there are people around you who are more confident, and they'll make the same mistake and they'll laugh it off. And they'll say, "Oh, we'll try it again next week." And with the unconfident person, they it's like the most devastating thing that has happened to them, and for the next 5 days it'll torture them. And it's a reaction from how they grew up. It's what having a low self-respect, feelings of low self-worth, lacking in confidence and self-belief in yourself, that has you severely doubting your decisions, your decision-making processes, and your ability to actually think, discern, make a decision that's the best for you, especially if that decision is the opposite to what the people guiding you want you to do. If we see them as heroes and angels and great people, then it's very hard to turn against one of their choices for us when we greatly lack in confidence, which they keep us in that mental state by keeping us on drugs and keeping us gaslighting and Stockholm syndrome and stuff, keeping us in survival mode, desperate all the time, struggling to mentally believe that we actually have the capability and the brains to get ourselves out of harsh situations. And we struggle to do it also because we're scared of turning against the people we think are helping us. And so we have this core belief of how worthless we are. You think of an apple core, the inside, we have a core belief of how worthless we are, how hopeless we are, how our life has just been a movie of a running of all our complete failures and our inability to cope on our own and to do things on our own and to succeed on our own. We must have these people because we just cannot do it on our own. And we get that belief. And so when it finally comes to the stage where we have to stand up and we have concrete proof that the people we're with are bad people, we just do, we just cover it over. It's too uncomfortable to face the new belief that's the opposite to what the core belief is. And so we refuse to take on what we're told. So we can only make the right choices for ourselves if we are willing to go beyond and look out of the square, trust our instincts, trust our gut feeling, ask ourselves, what's the more important thing? Is it the heart that really matters in the end, or is it money? Is it pleasing these people who we think are so great for us? And we can make those mistakes like I did with my family, where I could have made a lot of really good choices for myself. I just didn't believe I had the ability to do it. I had such a low faith in myself. And so if I remember getting opportunities to go places, as a young adult with friends or something, leaving the country or going something on a tour or something like that. And I was just like, no, no, I'll be right. And then I'd go to the pub. I'd do wasteful things. I'd go home and just read books for a week. I remember doing it many times. I used to have a huge cartoon book collection, and I'd just read cartoons and waste my life away. It wasn't bad. I wasn't doing drugs. I wasn't drinking every weekend. I was just slack, incredibly protective of myself. When I finally got that flat under Maito Bridge, I remember just staying in there because my sister and her husband moved down. And I just stayed there basically by myself and playing my music. And when I got my girlfriend Lynn, and she came up, she was always complaining what a loner I was, how I wasn't going out and doing things. And frankly, I didn't want to. And now I see it differently. And I approach life differently, and I think differently, and I make better choices, like for my eating, for my like I don't drink tap water because of the fluoride and the chlorine and the like in it, and in how I react with other people, how I talk to them, and health issues and stuff. I make better decisions. Back then, I didn't make any of those decisions. I didn't think about them. I didn't think about um, been eating good food. I didn't think about drinking good, clean water. I didn't think about. I didn't take drugs from the pharmaceuticals. When I was asked, given certain drugs for certain things, I just said no, and I wouldn't take them. So I did have that going for me. But the thing here with you is you will never ever succeed or become a better person or become a happier person until you grow in confidence. And the way that people, especially narcissists, keep us controlled is that they don't allow us to grow in confidence. They keep gaslighting us, but we don't realize it. We think we're an idiot, we're a failure. It's always been that way. There's something wrong with us. And in reality, they're actually creating those situations, and they're playing the hero, pretending, no, you're not a fool, you're not an idiot, and they're secretly inside saying, ha ha ha, and then they keep controlling you. I know because I've lived this, and it's not nice thinking out of it. I remember 2 or 3 times I was told, like in 2004, I was told I was a writer. And I said, no, 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 no. And my oldest daughter and my ex-wife both saw themselves as authors. And they constantly told me, no, James, they cracked up when they heard that. That was a joke of the century. And a person who've read some of my stuff says, no, you're right, you're pretty good. So I sat down and wrote the Weenie Bendies and the one about the Tucker twins, and two reasonably long stories. I thoroughly enjoyed them. Then I started writing articles and about life and what I thought about life, what I felt about life, what I felt about God, what I felt. And this is all before Facebook. Facebook was 2007. And I didn't start posting stuff on until the end of 2009. So I had a lot of writing material I'd written, but I hadn't done anything with it. And I've written 3/4 of a blog on mental health and how I changed. It became an absolute, I was going to say coward, but suffering depression, anxiety, and everything in 2004. And then by like 2012, I'd gotten over it all the very long, hard way, maybe 2014, because I remember I was still stressing over certain things even that late. But it was a long, slow process as I was bringing my children up, trying to find myself, trying to understand life, and trying to find out what was worthy of clinging to, what wasn't worthy. And I still wanted to be a child inside. I didn't want to lose that. I didn't want to become harsh. And people can bring the real bad out of us. Like my ex-wife, she get me so angry. So I didn't want to be that. So when you over the last since 2004, I've grown, I've adapted, I've changed, I've learned how to look after myself by making the right decisions for myself. But I only could have done it because I had confidence in my ability to make those decisions. So if you're in a situation and you think very badly of yourself, question yourself about it. I remember these therapy groups I went to back in 2004, 2005, and a woman turned up and she was a mess. And as the weeks went by, she started looking better. And we were only meeting probably 2 times a week, but a lot of us got a lot of say. And I was excessively shy, and it took ages to get me to say anything to anybody. And I was, but this woman, she was by the 5th week probably, she turned up to class and she was the total opposite. Her hair was done, she looked happy, and then the next week when she came in, she was back to the old way, and she was really sad looking at the floor. We were all shocked because there would be talking about this huge change in all of us, and especially in her. And her husband and her children had told her they didn't like the new person she was, and they wanted her to go back to the way she was, so she did. And I have a feeling her husband may have been a narcissist. We never met him. She was turning out to be a really nice, happy, confident person. She wasn't making demands to get a job or to go do things like that, or go and party with the girls, anything bad. She was becoming a better mother, experimenting with her cooking, dressing really nice, losing weight, beaming smile, and they wanted her back the way she was. They didn't want the changes because I think he was so insecure that if she changed, he knew she might not see him as the person she wanted to be with, or she might realize she's a narcissist and want to get away. So when we make the right decisions for ourselves, we need the confidence to believe that we can do it. I fully believe this woman at a later stage would have broken away and probably left her family, or left, taken the kids and left him, or she would have just told him, stuff it, this is the new me and live with it. And they would have just gone on happily. The thing is we shouldn't fear changing other people. We should encourage it, and if they're blooming and if they're growing, they're becoming a better person, more confident, there should be nothing to fear in that person changing unless we're hiding something. And if they want to go and start some new group or start some new course, or go see someone that they highly admire who could help them, and you're stopping them creating fears, and there was the person there was just stopping them creating fears in them, then they've got an agenda. There's no reason to stop a person becoming a better person. None at all. And if there's a cure for an addiction or some issue that that person's suffering, and it can be found in a certain place, but they're discouraged from doing it, because, haters have always been haters. It just takes us many years to figure out the haters. I've got many old friends who were haters that I didn't figure out till like 5-10 years later. Or, and I'm like, far out, if I'd have known. And when you find out, I thought of one, I think it was last night or yesterday. If there's a person who's a nice person, who's always been a nice person, but you've been told a whole lot of lies about the person that they're a bad person, and then one day you discover that that person's a wonderful person, then you realize that the person who's been telling you, and all the persons, others were involved, that this was a bad person, then they're all haters. Because there's no reason for them to lie about a good person. And there's no reason for them stopping you from seeing someone who's nice, or who could be good for your mental health or your physical health, or your maybe it's a love life. You fell in love with someone, and parents are very commonly known for doing this, where they interfere to stop the relationship. And I've known quite a few cases where people have met like 20 years later, and they both say to each other they were in love, but normally it's the female who turns around and says, "Oh, my parents kept interfering, and I didn't have the courage to tell them to shove off, and I did what they said, and you drifted away, and it broke my heart, and it broke your heart, but I just didn't have the courage to do anything about it." So, and you can't do it one-sided. Like if she listens to her parents and the guy's trying to get her, the parents will get the cops. They'll just say, "Look, he won't leave her alone. We want him to go and leave our daughter alone, and he needs to go." And so the police will go and see him, and he's got no choice. So it's really sad how other people can interfere in our lives, and this is why we need the faith in ourselves and an instinct in our heart and our soul to make the right choices, and then to back them up with action and go do the things that we really need to do, or we'll never be happy. You cannot be happy if you're not making choices for yourself, because if you're not making choices for yourself, you don't have enough confidence to follow your heart, follow your gut feeling, follow your instincts, follow your dreams, follow your desires. None of them are going to happen because there's people telling you to follow them, to do their thing, to live life their way. Or they'll be sitting there telling you all the time. It's been coming up on Facebook the last couple of days, is people always telling people that they're sick, or that they've got problems, or that it's you that's got the problem, not me. This is what the narcissist says. And I'm sacrificing my life, my time trying to help you, and this is how you're treating me. I spent money, I spent time, I've done this, I've done that, I've done all these things for you. And this, you want to run off and go see some, be a different person, or leave me. So they're laying guilt and all sorts of emotions on you, trying to make you stay. When in reality, if people are going to spend a lot of money and stuff like that, and they're not going to let you go and do the things you need to do for yourself that you feel good about, there's something wrong with their plan. They've got an agenda that is not clear to you yet. And it won't be yet. You think of the people that you've lost in the past. They turn nasty on you, and then you realise they were just haters. Like the sister who hates the case where a guy was chasing a sister for a long time, years. And the other sister was fiercely jealous because she was basically sleeping with anyone. She'd go to a party and sleep with 2 or 3 guys, sort of thing. So she was freely giving herself, and she didn't realise, because her mother was quite the whore herself, that she could actually have a decent relationship with a decent man and still respect herself at the same time, and to have one lover. And when she found out this guy was after her sister, she was fiercely jealous. And so she did everything she could to destroy the sister's relationship, because her attitude was, if I can't have a good, honest man, and then she damn well can't. And so she did everything to destroy it, and she did. So there's things to think about, but you're never, ever going to succeed unless you try and make an attempt. Many attempts, all the time, constantly challenge yourself. And if you're arguing, debating with people, constantly keep it up. So you can find out, when you verbalize things, what you believe. You can find out what you need. You can find out what you want to be. You can find out who you are by constantly hearing yourself fight and argue for these things. This is how you know who you are, by getting that out of yourself. And the things that are most important for you, you will fire up over. You will get angry over. You'll get excited over, and you'll demand change. And they'll be like, hey, because a new year's been growing. From the embers comes the phoenix. So the embers create a fire, which creates action, which creates, it is done. You do what you have to do. And you cannot grow and you cannot be a better person until you step away from your comfort zone and the people that are in your comfort zone. Make choices for yourself. It's the only way. And no other way can you be the better person that you want to be. You must have confidence in your choices, in your beliefs, in your gut feeling, your heart, your soul, and what you believe and love and want, in your boundaries. Other people always make you doubt them. If they do, they've got a hidden agenda or they're trying to manipulate you. Be strong for you, because you deserve it. Every single person who was born on this planet deserves a wonderful life. And you're no different, no matter who you are. Take care.